Hello, Stephen White, TrekBoy89 here. I'm finally going to do a video about the new Picard series. I haven't really talked about it because we don't know a lot about it. There was a little bit of news that just came out recently. Some articles, they all seem to have the same information. Basically rumours at this point, but seems to be some details that have come out. Now, we still don't know what the series is called. It seems they licensed a few names a while ago. The main contender seems to be Destiny, which is pissing a few people off because there's a Star Trek game called Destiny. Other people were suggesting it was going to be Picard. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be called Destiny. It was originally going to be a regular series, then it was going to be a mini series or a limited series. Now they're saying it's going to be 10 episodes. Now, it's set either 20 or 30 years after Nemesis, so it'll either be 2389 or 2399. Now, when they did the JJ film, they showed the destruction of Romulus in 2387, and that Spock was trying to stop the supernova that was going to destroy Romulus, and they were using red matter to absorb the explosion, and basically Spock got pushed or sucked into a different timeline, a different time, and created a different timeline, which is what the JJ films is based in, which is commonly referred to as the Kelvinverse. And they established the Prime Universe was the original Star Trek era that all the other shows and that were made out of, and that Spock came from that universe and created a new timeline. Now, what we've learnt due to the licensing issues is that actually the Prime Universe is a different universe from the universe that all the TV series and movies are made in, and the JJ films are a different timeline of that universe. So this Picard series will not be the Picard of the next generation. Not just because he's moved on, because his life and everything has changed and time has passed, but it's actually a different universe, different license. And Patrick Stewart didn't want to repeat the next gen and do the character the same anyway, so creatively they're taking a different approach. Now, details again, we don't have much. We know that Santiago Cabrera, who was in Heroes and Merlin, has been cast, and Michelle Hurd, who's from Law and Order SVU, is being cast. We don't know exactly who they are, who they've been cast as. We've got descriptions of some characters. It is going to be an ensemble cast, unlike Discovery, which was all about Sonequa Martin Green's Michael Burnham, and all the other characters which are secondary, although they have tried to involve them and flesh out those characters in the second season, but essentially it was all just about her. This is going to be an ensemble show. So we've got some character descriptions, which of course are still basically rumour. Nothing's been really officially established yet. So there's Starton, who's he's in his 30s, he's got a space phobia, he's an expert in positronic brains, so he's basically a scientist. There's Connie, who's a black woman in her 30s. Now, she's lost her husband. She is a mercenary or pilot, and she basically takes people to a certain area that has an artifact or artifacts that are of some value. We don't know much about that. She's got a death sentence on her home planet, so she's a rogue, basically, a criminal. We've got Lawrence, who has a dodgy moral compass, who apparently is the pilot. It looks like Picard has just assembled a group of people, just anyone. There's Indira, who's a younger woman in her 20s. She's socially awkward, she's very intelligent, but still socially challenged, so she's probably a bit like Tilly from Discovery. Now, Dr. Smith, which is kind of a fun throwback to Lost in Space by the name, is a male in 30s or 40s. He's an EMH, just like the Doctor from Voyager, but apparently he's inhibited, so he can't evolve or be like the Doctor from Voyager. He became more human and observed humans, and as he was basically switched on permanently, he became a sentient being, I guess, and his own person. It looks like this character is not going to be doing that. I'm guessing Starfleet had some issue with that and put in inhibitors to the program, so they didn't adapt and change. And although that was initially put into the program to help them be more human and help them be a better Doctor, but I'm guessing there were some political issues there, much like Data, and his whole issue of being human or not, or whether he was property and all that, which was explored in Star Trek. So that could be interesting, or it could actually just ruin the character because he's not going to be able to go in the directions that the Doctor went. But then again, this is all rumour and is not official. There's Alana, who's a woman in her 40s. She's got past drug issues. She's a brilliant analyst, but she's got some emotional issues. She's very irritable, so that's all we know about her. There's Kabar, who's a 17-year-old Romulan who is a martial arts expert. He's come from a female-led group, religious group, so he may possibly be some leader or future of Romulus or something. He has a mission with Picard. Now, we don't know what Picard's mission is. Does he have a mission? It sounds as though he's just gone rogue and doing his own thing. They've stated in certain quotes in articles from Alex Kurtzman and Jonathan Frakes and Patrick Stewart himself that Picard is in a different area of his life. He's not in Starfleet. He's left his Starfleet career behind. He's been radically altered by the political climate after Romulus has been destroyed, and the Romulan, I guess, refugee situation now, because there would have been a lot of Romulans that left Romulus before it was destroyed that now are displaced. And there does seem to be a rumour that there is actually going to be a conflict with Starfleet and Romulus, or the Romulan Empire, because they, being the paranoid warlike race that they were, they probably think that Starfleet was behind destroying Romulus, or didn't try to actually save Romulus, and that there's some conspiracy there. So that will probably be a backdrop of a potential war or conflict or drama there. And since Picard was established in the Countdown comic, which was set 8 years after Nemesis, that showed Picard helping Spock to try and save Romulus with the red matter and everything, and they showed Data was in charge of the Enterprise E, and Geordi helped out as well, which would have been great to have seen if they'd had some of those as cameos in the film, but they just had Leonard Nimoy. I'm not sure where they're gonna, how much of that they're gonna show. There isn't really any talk of any of the other actors being in the show. A lot of the other actors from the Next Gen have expressed their interest in the show. Jonathan Frakes has said he'd like to direct. I think they've already started talking to him. They're set to shoot fairly soon, and it's supposed to be on later in the year, but they haven't really made a lot of announcements of any progress. We don't really know many details at all. But it looks like basically Indiana, Picard and the Renegades. It looks like they're ripping off the Renegades TV series, or following the concept of shows like Serenity and Farscape and Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's basically a ragtag group of renegades or pirates who apparently are better than the Starfleet officers, and it doesn't seem to be, they seem to be abandoning the concept of the Gene Roddenberry perfect human and evolved human and utopian future, where we basically have people to look up to, people who are almost superhero-like because of their advanced evolution. Instead, we basically have a corrupt Starfleet, and these people are on their own, having their own adventure. And it looks like Picard has just gone off on his own after some archaeological pursuits, and he's put together a crew on his own ship, and he's not in Starfleet. It's not a Starfleet vessel. It's not really Star Trek, basically. It seems to just be its own science fiction, generic science fiction show, and it seems to be the direction that they are taking Star Trek in. They're using Star Trek's brand name and the hope of a built-in fan base and the Picard name and Patrick Stewart character, and they're just doing a general science fiction show, which after Discovery, they tried to do a Star Trek show with the licensing issues where they can't have the same tone, they can't have the same look, because although they don't own their license for it, and although they can actually use those elements, they have to pay for them, and then they can't capitalize off them, because say they show the Enterprise shuttles as the Starfleet shuttles, they can't then produce their own models or toys of that, because even though they can use it and that they can license that particular copyright for that design, they can't make any money selling it, because the money just goes to the original, or the copyright holder, which is CBS. So a lot of things in the first season of Discovery where they just did them totally different, like the uniforms, the ship, the D7 Klingon cruiser, which was not a D7, it was just some random design, because they made the Klingon ships that looked nothing like the actual original designs, because they didn't want to pay for the license, they didn't want to pay the original artists, and they didn't want there to be brand confusion, because it was the license that was put together by Bad Robot for Paramount from CBS, who owns Star Trek. After the Viacom CBS split, Paramount lost all their rights, CBS got all the rights, and now Paramount had to approach them and create a separate license to create the JJ films, and that's how they came to the conclusion of, well, in order to do it, because they said, well, you can do it, but you can't, there can't be any confusion about our Star Trek and your Star Trek. It's got to be different, and the established number seems to be 25%, so it can't have the same look or tone as the original Star Trek. You can use the name, you can use some of the characters, some of the details, but it has to be different and not to be confused with our Star Trek, because we have our own merchandise and our own shows that we're selling and marketing, and you know, we don't want you to be capitalizing off us. You have to have your own Star Trek. So this new show is all a part of that. It's all a part of that Prime universe, which is not the Star Trek universe all the other shows are made in. Discovery, part of the problem with that was they set the show 10 years before the original Star Trek, and yet it doesn't look, which is an established era we've seen on screen, doesn't look anything like it. Tone's different, everything's different, and it didn't work. This new show, at least it's set 20, 30 years in the future. It's a time period we haven't actually seen. They've got a lot more flexibility, and but they've even gone further from that by removing it. And it's not even a Starfleet vessel or Starfleet Star Trek. It's not really a Star Trek show. It's just a general science fiction show with Picard, Patrick Stewart in it, playing a version of Picard. And it may be a good science fiction series on its own. It may have its own merits. It may be good, but I'm probably not going to be watching it. It's going to be on All Access, because CBS bought Channel 10 here in Australia, so we've got 10 All Access. It'll probably be on that unless Netflix gets involved. And I'm probably not going to pay for a generic science fiction series starring Patrick Stewart playing a version of Picard 2 or 3 times removed from the beloved character from Next Generation. But I should be optimistic. It could be good, but a lot of the indications now are that it's just going to be more of Discovery, but in a way a little safer, because they're in an era that's not established and they're stepping away from Starfleet, so there are a lot of things they don't have to worry about replicating or contradicting. So it may be easier to watch, it may be a better show, it may be a good show in its own right, but we're not really going to know until it comes out. I've got my notes. I think I've gone through everything. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm just going to keep paying attention, keep watching the news, getting the updates, seeing where it goes, and hopefully I have something to say about it, and hopefully it will be better. I was hoping they'd wait till the licensing issues were resolved. If they managed to put CBS and Viacom back together, then the rights would all be together. There wouldn't be the need for a separate license, and they could do whatever they want, and they wouldn't have to have any issues with the tone or anything being different or separating, distinguishing the two. But it doesn't look like they're waiting for that, and they're just going to do it the same as Discovery. So we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll turn out well, maybe it won't. But I'm going to try and be optimistic, but we'll see what happens. Thanks. See ya.